This video is just 6 minutes long, and is the first in a series of everything you need to know about screenwriting videos, where I will cover formatting each element in a screenplay in detail. In this video, I cover scene headers, flashbacks, dream sequences, and black and white footage, so let's go. As scripts start with a scene heading, we should start there too. Scene headings are placed flush against the left margin, which is 1 inch from the left edge of the paper. A scene heading is possibly the most involved element because it can be very simple, or it can contain a lot of information. At its most basic level, a scene header describes the location and time. So therefore, we need to use a new scene header every time the location, or time, changes in our story. The first rule of the scene header, which is thankfully easy to remember, is that without exception, everything in the scene header is typed uppercase. Let's look at a simple version of a scene header. There are 4 parts to that basic line. The first part, I-N-T, stands for interior. Please note that it ends with a period. That period is probably the most important full stop you'll ever meet. It's mandatory, so don't miss it out or change it to a colon or semicolon. It's a full stop. Period. INT tells the reader that what is about to happen in this scene happens inside. If it was about to happen outside, we would use EXT, which stands for exterior. So that's the first decision, and hopefully an easy one to make. If your scene happens inside, use INT. If your scene happens outside, use EXT. There might be occasions where you could argue that the action takes place inside and out. Perhaps a car on a road. If the action was confined to inside the car, you could use INT. Or you could use both INT and EXT together, like this, to show it is both inside and outside. Now we have seen some of the components of the scene heading. It's time for rule number 2. This is simple to remember too. All parts are separated by 1 single space. That's it. I told you it was simple. Now, back to our example. Notice that we write kitchen and not the kitchen. Don't use words like the or an to describe your location, just keep it brief. In fact, that was rule number 3. The last field in the example is the time of day. This describes when all this action we are about to see happens. You will note that it is separated from the rest of the line with single spaces and a dash. This is how we separate different parts of the scene header as it gets more complex. I will expand on this later. For now, let's focus on the time of day. In our example it says, day. So now we know that whatever is going to happen, all happens, inside, in a kitchen, during the day. Our scene is set. Look at this scene header. INT. Bedroom, night. Again, our scene is set. Inside, in a bedroom at night. We can put anything in the time of day slot to describe when our action happens as long as it makes sense to the reader. For example, evening, morning, midday, midnight. There are a few reserved words that have special meaning in subsequent scene headers. These can't be used in the first scene header, because we have no reference point, as you will see. Later, this means this scene takes place sometime later than the previous one. Much later. Example. Our previous scene took place earlier in the day. This scene is still in the same day but several hours have elapsed. Continuous. This scene happens straight after the previous one. No additional time has elapsed. Same. This is happening at the same time as the action from the previous scene. They are concurrent. Next day, we saw a scene that took place yesterday, and now this scene is taking place the following day. I alluded to the fact that the scene header can be more complex. This is because it is designed so that we can keep cramming more and more information into it. And that is where the dash we saw earlier comes in. We can use the dash to be more specific about our location. If our action took place in various rooms of a house, we could extend our scene header. INT. Penthouse, kitchen, day, INT. Penthouse, bedroom, night, EXT Joe's farm, barn, EXT Joe's farm, stables. Another reason to extend the scene header with a dash is to describe the common usage of flashbacks and dream sequences. Flashback, EXT, Joe's farm, day. With the addition of 1 word, we can ensure that readers understand that we are describing action that takes place during a flashback. A flashback scene can transition to other scenes within the flashback. We don't need to mention we are still in a flashback in those following scenes. But when the flashback ends, that scene must be terminated properly. We do this termination, the same way we end all scenes, with a transition. We will cover these in full in another video, but for now, All we need to know is we put a transition of, and, flashback. And like all transitions it goes on the right of the page, and this transition ends with a period. Dreams and nightmares are handled like flashbacks. We simply describe our scene header as normal, and precede it with the reserved phrase, dream sequence. Again, a scene that starts a dream sequence can transition to other scenes still in the dream. Those scenes don't need to mention they are part of a dream. But again, when the final scene of the dream ends, it must be terminated properly. As before, this is done via a transition. This time, end dream sequence. Which also ends with a period. Finally, for this video let's cover black and white images. It's quite common for a certain part of a movie to feature black and white footage. It's an easy and efficient way of perhaps showing a flashback or a dream sequence. The way we include this in our script is also easy and efficient. We simply add it to the end of the scene header. Thank you for watching. Follow us on Facebook to know when other videos are released. If you can't wait for the next video, why not buy the book, Fade In, available on Amazon. It covers everything you need to know to write your screenplay. Bye for now, and keep on writing.